This is one of those videos that I didn't plan on doing. I want to, at a certain point, take my opinion completely out because I think this information is so important to understand as a nation, as a people, as call it what you will. You got to know this because this is happening right now in our country. It shocked me to the point where I'm a little angry, upset. Don't feel right about this at all, to say the least. So this is what's happening. And again, it's one of those things where I read about it and I was like, no, that's a joke. There's no way, like Babylon Bee stuff, this is crazy. And then I looked it up. I did my own research. It's real. The whole idea, I was researching some stuff about another video that I'm hopefully putting out later. It was a lot about what's happening in Minnesota, and it came to my forefront that the University of Minnesota, now there's multiple campuses, but the flagship of the state of Minnesota has this on there, that one of the classes that they do in their Cultural and Family Life Lab, it talks about the Whiteness Pandemic. Now again, I'm going to try and keep my opinion out of this, but the Whiteness Pandemic. And it goes on to say, what is Whiteness Pandemic? Whiteness refers to cultural, not biology. The centuries-old culture of whiteness features colorblindness, passivity, white fragility, and which are all covert expressions of racism common in the United States. I apologize. I'm a simple guy reading these big language and all these, just these ridiculous words. I'm kind of upset about this one, but goes on to say, at birth, young children growing up in white families begin to be socialized into the culture of whiteness, making the family system one of the most powerful systems involved in systematic racism. You read it a little deeper, and it goes, a guy named Dr. Ferguson explains the Whiteness Pandemic paper. So this kind of goes through the things, and I'm basically reading it word for word. I left out a few of the top part, which, again, if you can just trust me, it doesn't matter the top part because it's just ridiculous and a bunch of words that they made up. Anyway, 2020 police homicide of black unarmed Minneapolis resident George Floyd by a white police officer. We found that most white Minneapolis mothers displayed apathy or were overwhelmed and fearful and avoided discussing Floyd's murder of systematic racism with their children. On the other hand, mothers with more advanced white racial identity development who embraced multiculturalism more fully and felt less of a need to protect their own ethnic/racial group, displayed grief, concern, and hope, and discussed Floyd's murder and Black Lives Matter with their children using the color and power-conscious parenting. All right, it goes on to say the dedication of the paperwork that Dr. Ferguson is working on says, we dedicate this paper to the living memory of Mr. George Floyd and to all the other black and brown individuals who have been killed by police, including Mr. Dante Wright, who was fatally shot at a traffic stop in Minneapolis metro area. They said that's it. It talks about the time. It was days before Derek Chauvin was convicted of Floyd's murder, but that's all it is. That's the bottom part of the whole thing. Well, that sounds horrible that Mr. Dante Wright was fatally shot at a traffic stop. But let's dig into it. Let's look at the truth between lines and actually pull up what the actual report was from that. This is April 12th, 2021. Dante Wright, 20. He died Sunday in a metropolitan area that was already on edge because of the trial of the first of 4 officers charged in George Floyd's death. Gannon, who I think that's the sheriff or police chief, said at a news conference that the officer made a mistake, and he released body camera footage from the officer who fired. The footage showed 3 officers around a stopped car. When another officer attempts to handcuff Wright, a struggle ensues. The officer is heard shouting "taser" several times before firing her weapon. Katie Wright said her son called her as he was getting pulled over. Okay. The mother, Katie Wright, says all he did was have air fresheners in the car and they told him to get out of the car. Wright said during the call, she said she heard a scuffling and then someone saying, "Dante, don't run," before the call ended. When she called back, her son's girlfriend answered and said he had been shot. Pretty cut and dry. Yeah, it's completely the police officer's fault. Oh, wait, let's read more. Authorities said that the car was pulled over for having expired registration, and after determining the driver had an outstanding warrant, Police said they tried to arrest him. Then the driver re-entered the vehicle and an officer fired, striking him, police said. The vehicle traveled several blocks before striking another vehicle. Wright's family offered a different account, with Katie Wright saying her son was shot before getting back into the car. A female passenger sustained non-life-threatening injuries during the crash, authorities said. Katie Wright said the passenger was her son's girlfriend. No report from the girlfriend about what happened. Notice that's missing in this little section. And this was the entire section that I read from the article I was reading about. And I'll put the thing on there. But all right, so court records show Wright was being sought after failing to appear in court on charges that he fled from officers and possessed a gun without a permit during an encounter with Minneapolis police in June. In that case, a statement of probable cause said police got a call about a man waving a gun who was later identified as Wright. Now, notice too, one other thing I didn't read in this article here was the race or color of the officers either. Now, it's pretty clear that Derek Chauvin was white, because they said that multiple times. They didn't talk about the other officers, that weren't white, that were with Derek Chauvin, but this report doesn't say anything about their race. Interesting. So this person, Daunte Wright, sorry that he passed away, but with a scuffle, with running, with another case involved waving a gun, and of course without having a permit in Minnesota, he fled before. So it wasn't just air fresheners, Mrs. Wright. He didn't get pulled over for that, not to mention the registration. And now it's not having a registration or registration expired, a reason to die. No, it's not. But at the same time, stopping and listening to law enforcement and doing what they're telling you to do is more important. Okay. So that's the average thing of Dr. Ferguson, what they're saying on this. Now, it goes on to talk a whole lot about other people contributing to this whiteness pandemic and the Cultural and Family Life Lab. How do we halt and reverse the whiteness pandemic? Oh, by the way, this is all on the University of Minnesota website. This is not some QAnon or some behind the scenes or some Republican paperwork. This is on the University of Minnesota's website. The website, I'll put it on there, but innovation.uwm.edu, Cultural and Family Life Lab Whiteness Pandemic. It is on their website. Today is the 25th of November. It's middle of the afternoon as I'm taping this. So whenever you're writing this, if you want to go look at it and they haven't taken it down, it's going to be on there. So again, going back to this paperwork that's on the University of Minnesota's website, how do we halt and reverse the whiteness pandemic? If you were born or raised in the United States, you have grown up in the whiteness pandemic, and you can play a role in halting or reversing this pandemic, especially if you are white, because of the power and privilege you hold in this racialized society. If you were socialized into a culture of whiteness during a childhood, it is not your fault. But as an adult, it is now your responsibility to self-reflect, re-educate yourself, and act. If you are a white adult, anti-racist action involves an ongoing process of self-reflection in order to develop a healthy, positive white identity while engaging in courageous anti-racist parenting or caregiving. End quote. Now moving on, the next section here is practical resources for self-reflection to develop a healthy white racial identity. These are the sources you can read. I'm going to read the titles. Only the titles. It's on the website if you want to see more. Showing Up for Racial Justice. Black Lives Matter, of course, is on there. BLM. Sorry, I did not mean to interject my opinion. Me and White Supremacy Workbook. A Race is a Nice Thing to Have, a guide to being a white person or understanding the white persons in your life. What does it mean to be anti-racist? And how about Academics for Black Survival and Wellness? And this is for black folks and accountability for non-black folks. Now, folks is spelled F-O-L-X. I guess F-O-L-K-S is racist. I'm not sure. If someone can help me with that, let me know in the comments. So then it goes on, talk about what to read or watch to prepare or to talk with children about race, racism, white privilege, and anti-racism. What to read, there's a whole list of books. There's 9 books there. There's 15 articles about the other thing that I just mentioned to read. There's also videos you can do, how to explain racism to kids. Yeah. Anyway, the funding on this, I thought, again, follow the money. Always follow the money. So the funding that is listed on the University of Minnesota's website, the Whiteness Pandemic Project is funded by the Institute of Child Development. Also, the University of Minnesota at Ferguson, a pre-doctoral fellowship from the NIMH Under Award number, and then there's a long number, Provost Research Fellowship. Also, the University of Minnesota at Gillespie, an interdisciplinary doctoral fellowship. And then also from the University of Minnesota, Lenman. If you want more details, here's the link. You can go to the website and take a look at it. And I think it's funny at the very end, it does say report a problem with this website. And I might be doing that. But that is what we're seeing from our colleges. What's happening in our colleges right now? That might be something book to read, what's going on. Also, too, you can read on their website, too, the search for University of Minnesota. This is from Twin Cities. Speculative whiteness, the stories whiteness tells itself, educated in a whiteness, white women, race matters, classic Hollywood, classic whiteness. That's a book. Making the City of Lakes, whiteness, nature, and urban, the white possessive, critical whiteness studies. Those are things you can take at the University of Minnesota to understand the invisible structures that produce and reproduce white supremacy and privilege and its effects on education. College these days, right? What can we do? Again, I don't want to interject my opinion on this. This is what's out there. This is what they want you to educate your kids about. That's the report. That's the report. My opinion on this one, definitely talk to your kids. You should definitely talk to your kids. Talk to your kids before they get involved with this. Anyway, if you are seeing this at some other place, I am not from Minnesota. I did not go to the University of Minnesota. This just popped in my lap. This was not on my agenda to do today. I just read it. I didn't believe it. I had to go find out if this was actually truth, and I just can't believe it. So I wanted to just educate the world, which is what they want you to do. They want you to talk continuously 24 hours a day about race and how horrible whiteness is, and how if you are white, you can do better and educate yourself or re-educate yourself according to this paperwork. I'm sorry to bring this to you. I don't know where to go with this. I really don't, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to end it there. You're going to find out some more stuff, information. I'm going to do some more videos about what's happening in Minnesota, specifically Minneapolis, and the cultures that are growing there. So please, if you don't believe me, if you want more details, do your own research, okay? Just put it in the comments. Let me know what you find. Let me know if other colleges are doing this. I'm sure there are. This is not an isolated case, I would imagine. But continue looking for the truth between lines.